Welcome back to another Legend of the Crystal review with your host, XIV Games. We are finally back with number 3. Wait, no, let me check. 4. We're back with number 4 of these reviews. 4 of who knows. But I'm happy to be back with doing one of these because I really love working on Final Fantasy stuff. And obviously, you know, that's my main channel thing going forward. And we got some games coming up. So I kind of want to get at least to Stormblood before I get into 16. That might not happen. I've already beaten Stormblood, but I haven't dropped a review for it yet, obviously, as this is coming out just now. But I do hope that I can get at least partway through Stormblood, because as soon as 16 drops, that is going to be the priority. As you know, new Final Fantasy takes priority. Even if you didn't know, now you know. So I'm very excited to talk about that when it comes out in multiple ways, including streaming it on my channel, my Twitch channel, that I will be putting in the description below. So thank you guys so much for watching these reviews. Thank you for, you know, looking at my content, and I hope you're very excited for FF16 as coming up. And, you know, I'm hoping I can branch out with more games too after 16, but we'll see, because 14 is the big focus right now. So yeah, okay. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this video. That is Final Fantasy 14 Heavensward. Planning for Heavensward began a little bit after Realm Reborn had released, during its first patches. Yoshida considered this expansion would be sink or swim for the Final Fantasy XIV project. MMOs live or die by their expansions, so it was a lot riding on the team, making sure they got it just right. Yoshida picked Ishgard as a location for 2 reasons. The first, Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 didn't have many fantasy elements in his eyes. When he stated this to the team, they mentioned that, well, we have Ishgard. It has knights and fighting dragons. He brought up that you can't even go there, so it's not really a boring thing you can do. So once A Realm Reborn was completed, that was his first goal: allow the player to go to Ishgard. The second was to allow him to write a story about the themes of sky, dragons, and knights. Also, 3 major locations in Ishgard would fit his gothic fantasy story he wanted to tell. The story would center around why dragons and man would be at war for this many years. The team made sure to keep things that were from backstories in 1.0 in Heavensward, to not get rid of anything. An example of this is the dragon language that was set up in 1.0 by localization director Koji Fox. One big deal for Yoshida was to present this expansion as more than that. He wanted players to see it as a brand new Final Fantasy game. It would have 50 hours of main story content, a full game's worth of music, and some new side content, like crafting, deep dungeons, and more raids. He described FF14 from Heavensward onward as a Season 2 TV show. 1.0 and A Realm Reborn are Season 1, Heavensward until Endwalker are Season 2. Another thing he wanted to change was where the influence of the writing of the story came from. Instead of taking from past Final Fantasies like A Realm Reborn did to establish itself, Mayhiro and Yoshida looked into the real world. Religious conflict was a very important influence for this. Mayhiro also wanted to go deeper into characters, like Alphinaud for example, as it felt like something that they could improve on. I agree. Another was the detail on the lore of Ishgard. Even the littlest things he wanted to make sure add something to them. Koji and Oda were major parts of this process. New well thought out characters and better quest writing were a very important thing for Heavensward. They wanted to expand on the world of FF14 to make it feel like the story Yoshida always wanted to tell. New gameplay additions they wanted to add were, of course, the raids, crafting, and the new deep dungeon, alongside new jobs. But one thing they had to make sure for jobs is that they didn't just come off as thrown together. They had to figure out how to design these jobs so that they would fit in line with FF14. One of the issues with raids when they came out though is that they were not well balanced. They were very harsh on the player, and getting to the raids required a lot of work because of some missing quality life stuff that's not there as it is now. Things such as no cross-world functions, which meant everything had to be done within your world, making it harder to find groups to do these raids with. Eventually this was fixed, and the last 2 battles of Alexander were much more fun than the raid had been previously, which helped save the fanbase, because some fans were even planning to give up the game forever due to these issues. Thankfully, you can't go wrong with the music for FF14, as Soken had returned to do the music as the sound director did over 50 tracks. Uematsu also returned this time, but he only did the main theme once again, the main theme, Dragon Song. Soken found it important to make sure the song connected to the story, so he composed each of his pieces to fit as if the instrument would have naturally played in these locations. Having to do all of this alongside doing the patches for Realm Reborn had to have been a ton of work, because this was before they had the development pipeline structure that they have today. Thankfully, they don't have to do this again because there's apparently no crunch going on at CBU3 as far as I can tell. If anyone knows otherwise, feel free to let me know. After Heavensward was announced in 2014, partway through the patches of Final Fantasy XIV 2.0, it then released a year later in 2015 to critical and fan praise, people calling it the best Final Fantasy content since Final Fantasy X, something that would be repeated with the release of Shadowbringers. So, how did I feel about Heavensward? Well, you'll know when I get to the review section. For fair warning, for the story section specifically, there is no retelling of the story like I did in my last 3 reviews. This time, I lost footage from my initial playthrough due to hard drive issues, so I'm only going to do a quick summary of the start of the story. But I will still go in depth into character writing, how I felt about the themes and stuff like that in the section I do usually, like I did in my other video. So don't have to worry about that. You'll still get your story character content, but just less this time. So I hope you guys enjoy that section, as that's up next. And when I get to the gameplay, it'll probably be, you know, the usual. So let's get to the story. After the events of patch 2.55, Cloud and the remaining Scions move into Ishgard for shelter with the help of their good friend Hoshafront. After a nice intro narration, we are welcomed to the house of Hoshafront's father, Count Edmond de Fortin. He has us explore the city to learn about the history of Ishgard, when the city has been hit hard after a wyvern assault. Alfie offers Cloud up to help wherever we can, and Edmond agrees. His 2 other sons, Artarel and Emmanuelin, don't like this, as they don't think they need help in their duties. But Edmond assures them that this is good because Clout is the warrior of light. Now that they got that under control, we start our mission to rebuild Ishgard. First, we help Artoel in the Kurthos Western Highlands. When they arrive at the Falcon's Nest, Cloud is tasked with looking for knights, who went to a heretic's hideout and never returned. Clout finds one knight who survives and he points him towards the hideout. Clout makes it there and it turns out the heretic is none other than best girl Lady Iceheart. Before the 2 fight it out, Migar Samar pops out and calls her the child of truth, as she was someone who saw the real history of the dragons through the echo. She tells us her intention wasn't to kill innocents, just to stop this war. She doesn't want to fight anymore, and as she leaves, she tells us she will continue to work to ending this war. Archewell comes around to see Cloud after this, and says he won't down him as easily again. Next is the mission with Emmanuelin, where he and Cloud will help House Helenard in the Cloud Top camps in the Sea of Clouds. Lady Lynette, however, wants as little help as possible from Emmanuelin because he's known to mess it up. Sadly, she is eventually forced to give him a mission, but sends Cloud as backup, as it's the best way to keep him out of trouble. Their goal is to get a water crystal, as it will help them get water much easier here in the Cloud Seas. Emmanuelin challenges Cloud to see who can find the best crystal. Big mistake though, because now he is captured by the local tribe. Cloud and Hoshafront go after and free him, only to get cornered. Not only that, but these guys summon their savior, Bismarck. Hoshafront called out that this creature is a primal. Can't even escape the primals here, huh? I guess we're technically still in Eorzea? Not even technically, we still are. Sid thankfully shows up right before Bismarck lays it on us, and we get out of here. After returning to camp, Lynette thanks Clout for helping everyone, and says it would be best to return to Ishgard after what just happened. Emmanuel and Clout make it back and he gets a scolding, but that is interrupted by the news of Alfie and Tataru being accused of heresy by the Heavensward. Whoa, name drop. The 8-hand army of the Great Archbishop. The only way to win is to fight their accuser, Sir Ginarax. Alfie can, but Tataru definitely can't. She calls on Clout to fight in her place. Of course, he accepts. Clout and Alfie then take on the members of the Heavensward. They win and prove Tataru's innocence. After winning, Clout gets a black chocobo from Hoshafront, but before he can enjoy flying around Ishgard on it, he is called to meet with the Archbishop, the Word of the Seven. He tells Clout of a plan he has, one involving him working with the Ascians. He plans to betray them and needs Clout for this plan. However, he doesn't specify what Clout is needed for. That's interesting. Later we tell Alfie about this and he's quite shocked, but before we can even hope to get into this matter, Tataru tells us she has heard that Raubon is planned to be executed. The plan immediately changes to go and save him. We learn from Merweb in the Domans he was moved to an unknown location by the Braves. There's also something else. The people of Ul'dah have no idea that Nanamo has died. That's very strange considering what happened last game where everyone chased after us and fled the room. It's interesting that they don't know. We track Yu Yu Hase and find Ilbert alongside him. The gang takes that lead and storms a building, finding Raubon at the end. A fight with the Braves commences as they appear right after we get Raubon. Of course, the battle is won. They take Raubon and meet with a mysterious woman at the Waking Sands. who turns out to be one of the Ul'dah Council members, Dullaha. She confirms the suspicion Alfie had himself for a very long time. Nanamo is alive, and the poison she drank was nothing more than to put her into a comatose state. Alfie suggests that he stay here and Cloud goes back to Ishgard. He'll investigate this matter. Just in the nick of time too, as Tataru tells us that they are about to be hit by Dravanians and Wyverns once again. He makes it back to Ishgard, and I think the best way to stop this oncoming assault will be to work with Lady Iceheart. Bring tension down at least until a better solution is brought up, as she has a connection to the dragons. Estinian decides to join up with their party. He wants to be there in case talks fall through, and if they do, he and Cloud shall kill the almighty Needhog together. Why are we being forced into that? Ah well. We go to Sir Emmerich to ask him to hold off the military force while we go find Lady Iceheart. He agrees, and they go to find Lady Iceheart. Before that though, we get a scene with the Archbishop and one of his Heavensward. They speak about things such as their plan to eliminate the dragons, the Yassians, and speak about us. Apparently we have a big role to play in this entire thing. I really do wonder what it is. After some misleads and nothings, they find a camp that has heretics. But she isn't there. The gang is given a hint, however. They need to make a purple smoke to call other heretics. Estinian does that, and she appears before them. They explain to her that they want to talk to Needhog, but she says that is impossible. Needhog will never see eye to eye with humans. See, the concept of time is completely different from how we see it compared to dragons. 1,000 years ago was barely a blip into the life of a dragon, and that's exactly what happened. She explains to them what happened those 1,000 years ago. So she speaks about the Dragon Song War. 1,000 years ago, Elazins wanted to settle on Kurthos, but the dragons already lived there, and did not feel like sharing the land. This sparked a war between them. Shiva, however, wasn't like the other Elazins. She wanted to understand the dragons, so she spoke with their leader, Heshvelgar, eventually falling in love with him. He knew that he would one day lose her because, well, Elazin lives are so much shorter. So she asked him to consume her so they could stay together forever. He didn't want to at first, but he eventually gave in. Everyone learned of this, and both people were at peace for 200 years. Until a greedy Elazin learned that the dragon's powers come from their eyes. With this, Elazin started attacking dragons to gain their power. Bro, this is just like the Uchiha and Naruto, bro. Oh my god. I see you, Yoshi P. I see you. Sorry. This is how Needhog lost his eyes, and how the Dragon Song War officially started. Estinian believes there's more to this story because he has the eyes on Needhog that Needhog wants so badly. And for some reason, Needhog has attacked Ishgard despite him being away from it for most of the time. So something is clearly not 100% true. Iceheart then suggests maybe it would be best to talk with Heshvelgar, so she joins the party. Once she does, Cloud's ice crystal is restored, the one he lost meeting Midgar somewhere. What could this possibly mean? Well, I guess we'll learn later because their main goal is set. Go find Heshvelgar and end this war. The quest for peace starts here, and this is the real beginning of Heavensward. Cool start to the story, right? Many things are set up and we start to see specks of possible character fleshing out being in the story. Does it all come together and work? I'd say yes. Honestly, Heavensward is one of my favorite stories in Final Fantasy. How it dives deeper into characters from A Realm Reborn and new ones is some great stuff. Lady Iceheart, for example, gets to be with what if everything you work towards meant nothing? You could give up everything or find a new purpose. Estinian dealing with being fed lies his entire life, Alfie now trying to correct what he thinks are his wrongs in the case of the Crystal Braves and the Scion disbanding. And those are just the main 3 party members of Heavensward. The villains here are great because of their connection to the heroes and side characters. It's why you can have a great ending to the base game, and especially the patches like 3.3. I teared up. I literally cried. It's some really fantastic stuff with how they go into each major character and each major story bit. I do enjoy the stuff involving Raubon that's not dealing with Ishgard. However, I think it does come in at weird times and kind of makes me wonder why I decided to do it in between stuff I'd like to continue on with Ishgard. Also, it makes me worry that the story of 14 will feel like that it doesn't have the balls to kill off characters. Not that I'm a person who thinks you need to kill off characters to have good moments with things like that. Seeing Nanamo quote unquote die hit really hard and made me wonder what the hell was going on inside the world of Eorzea. You still do get that, but I feel like it's kind of a bit of loss in how strong the impact was. But I guess it was there in the moment, so I guess it's okay. A lot of the stuff of Raubon and Nanamo go into Alfie Node as a character and gives him the real good character writing that he needs after the raid series of Bahamut. The themes of this game are really good too. Themes such as family bonds. Do you keep those even if it's nothing but pain and doesn't allow for change in the world? Forgiveness? Moving on for a better future? Themes like that are huge here in relationships with Heshvelgar, Needhog, or Emmerich and Thordan. I want to say especially with Emmerich and Thordan because the stuff you get with Emmerich about trying to figure out what to do with his family history is really fantastic stuff. And Estinian is his path for revenge all go into those specific things. The patches also have that same thing, as they are what has Needhog's story in it. But the patches also have more development for stuff that's done in A Realm Reborn. You mostly see this with Y'shtola after she's back, and her and Alphinaud have a deep connection with Matoya, a former teacher of Y'shtola, and helped put her on the path to becoming a Scion. The missing Scion that they were looking for in A Realm Reborn, Krill, is also involved in this, as she's trying to find her new place in the Scions after being missing for so long, as they search for a way to get Minfilia back so they can have the Scions be completed once again. She was also a friend of Louis Sois, Alphinaud's grandfather. It was a short section, but it was great for their arcs nonetheless. Eden and Papamow also showed these themes heavily towards the end of the game after 3.3 leading into Stormblood. Same with Raubahn, as it also connects to Stormblood, with his story of Ilberd leading him down a path of revenge that eventually ends in his death. And it affects those people that he leaves behind and those around them. I love it. The overall writing is on like another level compared to Realm Reborn. It's kinda insane. You did have to go through the setup, or parts that are considered boring by people, but it was all worth it for Heavensward. A story with good setups, payoffs, and some of the best character moments in Final Fantasy. All in all, it's a really fantastic story, and the future that it hints at seems like it's going to be fantastic for the rest of my experience in Final Fantasy XIV. So I wasn't there for the launch of Heavensward, obviously, and it's an MMO, so of course things are going to change. Since I can't talk about Heavensward changes and mechanics deeply, I'll just go over the things I found and how dungeons and bosses have changed. First, flying was added to the game, which was automatically given to you in A Realm Reborn after you beat it. In Heavensward though, you have to find the Aether Currents, which I still haven't, and that's the thing for every expansion after, I'm told. Once you do, you can fly it in said area, not in the entire region that Heavensward takes place. Another introduction was G-Pose, and we all know about G-Pose. The great picture taking command that allows you to do some fancy photos with your warrior light or your friends. Deep Dungeon was added. It's got its own experience system, and like you level up as you go through the thing, and you also find weapons and stuff. Like it's like a roguelike type of little experience, and I really do enjoy it, even as someone who doesn't like roguelikes. And there's save points every like 50 floors, every 20 floors, something like that. It's really cool. I really had a good time with the Deep Dungeon, and I'll probably go back because I'm like level 21, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go back and play more. You know, when I find the time, I definitely will, because I had a really fantastic time with that. Apartments and housing was introduced too, but I don't do that, so it's not too important to me to go into details too. Different limit breaks on each job was added to Heavensward, which is really cool. I didn't know that was new to that until just recently. Now for the other stuff I did notice other than flying. Dungeons in Heavensward felt way more involved, especially the later patches one. My favorite is Sorkai, an epic trial to prove ourselves to Hirschvelgar, with some great level design, fun enemies, and great bosses. And the final boss of it was pretty damn good. I really enjoyed the side content of the expansion too. I don't have footage anymore of the Alexander raid, but I had a blast with it, and I really liked the story that it told. I think the biggest improvements overall are the main bosses though. They feel like events of how much you were doing with them. I didn't really feel this all the way through A Realm Reborn, but here I thought it was a lot more prominent. Really made the game more fun and epic. Only thing gameplay wise I didn't enjoy is the running back and forth quest thing that kind of extended the game a lot more than it probably would have been. Specifically the Moogle quest that was required for a story, where it was a lot of running back and forth and doing little jobs for the Moogles. I know it's like just whatever in the grand scheme of things, and it's like a really cute quest, but I really wanted to get back to the meat of the story, and obviously you need some downtime stuff, not make the story feel like it's going at a brisk pace or whatever, but it just felt like that specifically, and like some other instances, it felt like it was just there to drag it out. But again, that's an MMO thing, so you just accept it as it comes. And of course, it doesn't stop Heavensward from being an overall fun experience. Excited to see how much better things improve in Stormblood. The presentation in this is a lot better than A Realm Reborn. Not that it was bad, there's a lot more variety in locations now. A lot of great art direction here with some places like Ishgard and surrounding areas, because snow places are like my favorite in video games ever. This did not disappoint. The Dravanian Forelands and the Hitherlands with the very grassy areas but have a dragonic tone to them. Sitting at the top of the hills is this castle that's a really cool place to walk into. There's like dragons just chilling there. It's really nice to see, especially because of the colors there. There's a lot of really neat colors like the reds. My favorite location though is the Cloud Sea. It's just amazing to look at, especially at night. Sometimes I just stand there and look around because it just looked insane. The art really went all out here, and that's how you do it for a game that's clearly behind in the times of visual fidelity, but to make it look pretty, you just go all with the art direction. From the start all the way until the end, it does not stop hitting. You can see the passion the team had to make a perfect Final Fantasy world. Spells and animations also get an upgrade. They have a lot more big bombastic ones for bosses, or even your classes themselves get some really cool ones. I like that they added a sense of growth with your character animations for the classes you play. It's super neat. Alongside how good the music is, like the presentation just overall is like really good. Like, what can I say about the music, man? Masayoshi Soken, Yukio Takeda, and Nobuo Uematsu come back as the main composers alongside some other arrangers such as Yoshitaka Suzuki and Ryo Takahashi. This is like a top 10 minimum Final Fantasy track, like it doesn't go below that. The new main themes, Heavensward and Dragon Song, are masterpieces, literal masterpieces. Songs that, once I heard, awakened something in me. The leitmotif that Heavensward uses throughout the entire expansion is from the song Heavensward, and the expansion is better for it. I'm not a music expert, so I can't go into detail about, oh, why this, sounds like this, or why this sounds like that, or the interesting bits about notes and composition use. But I can just say that it's unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. I do wish we had a song as good as Shiva from A Realm Reborn, because that's like the best song in Final Fantasy. But beggars can't be choosers. It's still a fantastic soundtrack overall, and I can't wait to see what Soken and the crew do next. Like, I'm very glad the presentation in this game is above A Realm Reborn in so many ways, and I'm glad they just stepped it up when they needed to. Thank you, art team. Thank you, music team. Thank you, everybody, for making a beautiful, beautiful game. So yeah, if you couldn't tell, I love Heavensward. It's everything I could have wanted in a sequel to Realm Reborn. Improvements in areas I really think needed it, and going above and beyond what needed to make it look like a great game. Storytelling that feels like the build-up from A Realm Reborn was worth it. Banging music, cooler fights, and fantastic set pieces. I really do feel like this was the first true outing of the current CPU3, and it has me very excited for Final Fantasy 16 since a lot of these individuals moved over to work on it after Heavensward had finished. The future is bright, and I can't wait to beat Stormblood and come back here once again, as I enjoy talking about Final Fantasy to you guys, and Final Fantasy 14 is solidifying itself as one of the best Final Fantasy experiences I've ever had.